In this episode we're looking at issues that might influence how we vote. We're taking a look at employment-related issues. Like many other countries, New Zealand is facing the challenge of an ageing population. But unlike some other countries, we've not planned for this particularly well. Our main retirement income program, New Zealand Superannuation, is entirely tax-funded, and this scheme is taking an increasing share of our taxes as more and more people reach retirement age. At the same time, a variety of other income support programs have sprouted up over the last 20 years. And because of the rising cost of New Zealand superannuation, these programs are being squeezed, potentially creating financial hardship for those who are reliant on them.
In the midst of these changes, government has chosen to cut back job and skills training budgets, thereby marginalising thousands of young people whose skills we will badly need over the next few years. Now more than ever is the time for big thinking, but as a nation we are scarcely even talking about these problems.
The baby boomer generation, those people born between 1946 and 1966, started reaching retirement age in 2011. At this time, New Zealand superannuation was paid out to 516,000 people and cost $8.8 billion, which was nearly 13% of government spending. By 2018, superannuation is expected to be paid out to 736,000 people and to cost $13.6 billion, which will nearly be 17% of government spending. Over the same 7-year period, the working age population is expected to grow by less than 60,000 people. In other words, almost 4 people join the ranks of those receiving superannuation for every additional person reaching working age and possibly joining the ranks of working taxpayers. This is the demographic time bomb anticipated by planners 30 years ago, but for which very little planning has been done. If we had done some planning, we would have commenced something like the Kiwi Saver program decades ago. In addition, we would be investing heavily into our young people so that they could be as skilled and as productive as possible. Instead, from most accounts, we are selling our young people short. For example, public spending on tertiary education is expected to fall from 6% of government spending in 2011 to 5% in 2018. As well as the $13.6 billion we are expecting to pay people on New Zealand superannuation by 2018, the government is more or less committed to paying a further $10 billion a year in other income support programs. These are such payments as welfare benefits, housing subsidies, and working for families. Perhaps as many as 700,000 individuals or families receive such payments, so clearly the level of reliance on them is extensive. There are 2 big problems with these other income support payments. The immediate one is that the government is slowly reducing the value of the payments to save money. Each year the effects of inflation are not fully taken into account, so slowly the real value of these payments decline, and with this potentially the living standards of those receiving them. The second big problem with these income support payments is around incentive problems. While dependency is a common word used to criticise such payments, especially welfare benefits, the underlying problem is really one of poverty traps. Poverty traps exist where people get stuck in positions of poverty or disadvantage and have little or no way of getting out. All of the income support payments other than superannuation are targeted, which means that as people earn more money they lose some of their support. At the extreme end, this can mean that somebody wanting to move into part-time work from a benefit might lose as much as 80 cents in taxes and benefit cuts for every dollar they earn. When you take into account potential travel costs and childcare costs and the fact that the work involved would probably pay low wages, we can start to see that people who want to improve their position in life through work can face huge financial hurdles.
Salvation Army sees major problems with many of our work and income policies. We believe that there are an urgent need of overhaul.
For example, the value of many payments is being eroded, with inflation making it harder for many families to make ends meet, especially in the face of rising rents. Poverty traps and incentive problems make it difficult for people to move into work or otherwise improve their situation. Spending on training and education of younger people seems to be reducing at the very time we need more skilled people. Meanwhile, spending on superannuation continues to rise year on year as the baby boomers retire. The Salvation Army suggests that the following 4 actions would bring positive change.
First, we believe there is a need for both short-term and medium-term responses to this malaise. In the short term, that is over the next year or so, we believe the government should update the value of accommodation supplement payments to take account of rent increases since 2007. That was the last time that these payments were adjusted.
Secondly, the Salvation Army also believes that Working for Families payments should be paid out to all households supporting children, including those living on welfare benefits. While this would not be the silver bullet to eliminate child poverty, it would certainly put a dent in it. Such a move would also make our whole benefit system simpler and reduce the need for the supplementary and emergency payments that are now commonplace.
Thirdly, as a matter of urgency, the government should increase funding for skill and vocational training for young people and for those who are unemployed and require opportunities to retrain. As a nation, New Zealand is facing significant school shortages over the next 5 years. And it's simply not good enough that we import skilled labour, such as we've done for the Christchurch rebuild, when we have young people who are idle and without the proper skills.
Finally, in the slightly longer term, we need to look at the fundamentals of our income and work policies to ensure that all New Zealanders have every opportunity to participate in the wider economy and society and to share in its prosperity. Our present policies are an unfortunate mix of past policy, which have been added to in an ad hoc way without much forward thought as to how they will work together. The growing cost of retirement incomes and the emerging skill shortages mean that such a sticking plaster approach is no longer useful.
Perhaps because of the 3-year electoral cycle, New Zealand has become very short-term in its focus and character. Politicians need only to offer policies and ideas that will work for today, and there's little thought given sometimes to long-term consequences, and even less thought of a vision for what New Zealand might become. Perhaps the people most affected by this election, and of course any election, are those who are too young to vote, our children and grandchildren, our nieces and nephews. They of course get to inherit both the good and the bad consequences of the decisions made by politicians who will be elected to power in this year's election.
As you consider your vote in this election, do give some thought to the longer term future of New Zealand and the generations yet to vote and yet to be born. We need to think beyond the short term and the self-interest that often goes with electioneering. If we continue to be distracted and even seduced by politicians who tend to offer short-term, self-interested ideas, then we cannot really hope for a better future. Do make your vote count by thinking about issues of work and income as you prepare to vote on September 20th.
We hope you're becoming addicted to this series. Next week we're going to talk about children and the policies that impact on them.